Hey, what's up guys? This is Tony with Fun Intelligent Training, and today I'm going to talk to you about squat depth. Squat depth is a topic that's been debated in the fitness community for a long time. Now there's two major groups in the topic of squat depth. There's those that think you should go as deep as you possibly can until your butt touches your calves, otherwise known as an ass to grass squat. Or ATG squat, which you see online quite a bit. And then there's the group of people that think that squatting to parallel or just below parallel is sufficient, which would be until your butt is parallel to your knees or your hamstrings are parallel to the ground. Of course, there's those people that think that squatting is bad for your knees. Those people are morons, so we're not going to pay attention to that. Now today I'm going to tell you about why you would choose a certain depth in your squat. And really this is going to be the deciding factor, because there are certainly benefits and disadvantages to both. Now typically speaking, in any exercise you want a full range of motion. So you would think with the squat, going as far as you possibly can is good. But what you need to understand is not a lot of people have the physical capability of doing an ATG squat or a full squat with proper form. There's a lot of things that are required to make that happen. First and foremost, you need to have good flexibility in your ankles and hips, but secondarily, you really need to have good control of your lumbar spine, your lower back. It's extremely common for people to relax the lower back and round the lower back in a deep squat. Now, a lot of times when we think about rounding the back, we think more of the thoracic spine or the mid back or the upper back with the shoulders. But you can round the lower back as well. And you see that quite a bit in really deep squatting. A lot of times people can't achieve deep squat depth without relaxing that lower back. So who wants to squat deep? Okay, what are the advantages of that? Of course, if you are interested in any kind of Olympic lifting, a deep squat is absolutely crucial. In the clean and the snatch, a deep squat depth is crucial for success, because eventually you'll get to pulling loads. You can only clean so high, and eventually you have to actually squat under that bar to be able to get the weight to the rack position. So if you go check out some videos on YouTube, you can watch Olympic lifters go at it, and you can see that they're almost sitting down on their calves when they get under the bar for a clean or in a snatch. Now, if you have a difficult time doing that properly, don't worry about it, because squatting to parallel or just below is still very beneficial. Where that came from is basically the powerlifting community. They decided, okay, we're going to count this squat if you hit a certain depth, which is parallel or just below. Depending on which powerlifting organization you're looking at, they're going to define what parallel is a little bit differently, but typically speaking, it's when your butt is parallel to your knee joint or when your hamstring is parallel to the floor. So if you have a hard time reaching full squat depth, you're still going to get a great benefit out of squatting if you're going to parallel or maybe a half an inch below parallel. There's no point in trying to do a full squat if you don't have the proper mechanics to do so. Like I said, the flexibility or the control of that lumbar spine. So I'm going to show you what I'm talking about now with that rounding of the lower back. Okay, when performing a squat, the setup is pretty straightforward. You want to take in a big breath and have a really proud chest. That's going to give me a nice flat lower back, which is what I want. From there, I'm going to set my feet about shoulder width apart, point my toes out slightly, and I'm going to hip break before I knee break, which means I'm going to move at my hip joint before I move at my knee joint. And it's a very small motion, and it happens with a lot of fluidity. So there's not a conscious kind of bending of the waist and then the knees. It happens in quick succession. And I'm going to try to keep that nice flat back through the whole squat. So push those hips back and begin my squat. And come back up. Inhaling on the way down, exhaling on the way up. Now what I mean by rounding the lower back is you see a lot of people, when they squat, they'll do this. So now my butt kind of tucks under me, my lower back is rounded. So again, rounding the lower back. Not rounding. not to be offensive, but if you watch my butt as I squat, you can see the difference between it staying in place and it tucking under my hips. So again, properly. Improper. So you just got to see the difference between a nice flat back and a rounded lower back in a squat. Again, if you are interested in Olympic lifting, it is really important to try to work towards that deeper squat depth. If you don't have an interest in Olympic lifting or using Olympic type lifts to increase athleticism, you don't really have to worry about it as much, but you do want to be hitting at least parallel in your squats and working towards increasing that range of motion if you have a hard time doing that. Now, a couple things that are going to help you achieve depth. If someone's having a hard time getting to parallel, make sure that their feet are about shoulder width apart and move it out from there. A wider stance is going to allow for a little bit more depth. Also, point the toes out slightly. You don't want the toes pointed straight ahead. If you point the toes out, it's going to be a little bit easier on the knee joint and create a little bit more angle so you can achieve more depth. Of course, stretching the ankles, stretching the hips and lower back is a great way to improve your flexibility. It's going to help with your squat depth. So I would say in general, ATG squat or full squat depth is really important for your athletic community, and for the general population, just below a parallel squat is probably going to be sufficient. If you guys have any questions, post them up to the video. I'm Tony with Fun Intelligent Training. If you don't squat, you ain't worth